Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that His presence with you is more than enough for whatever you might face today. Well, we are continuing on with Jesus, and you know that Jesus has been teaching His disciples for the third time that He is going up to Jerusalem, that He's going to be betrayed, He's going to be handed over to the Gentiles, He's going to be mocked, spit upon, whipped, and then He's going to be crucified, put to death, and that on the third day He will rise. And you also know that following this cross teaching, James and John came to Him and said, "Teacher, we want you to do something for us, whatever we ask." And Jesus says, "Well, what do you want me to do for you?" And they said, "We want to sit, one at your right, one at your left, when you come into your kingdom." See, they are convinced that Jesus is the King, the Messiah, that He's ushering in God's kingdom. And so they want good seats in His kingdom. They want power seats. They want to be part of His ruling cabinet. And Jesus says, "You don't really know what you're asking for. Are you able to be baptized with the baptism I'm baptized with? Are you able to drink from the cup that I drink from?" He's talking about His death. And they are clueless. They say, "Yes, we are." And Jesus tells them, "Well, you're right, you will, but it's not for Him to give out these seats. That belongs to the Father." And so the discussion is kind of over with James and John, and then the news of their question, somehow it gets leaked to the disciples. And so that's where we're going to pick it up. It's Mark chapter 10, and we're picking it up at verse 39. I'm sorry, verse 41. "And when the 10 heard of it, heard about what James and John had asked, they began to be indignant at James and John." They were angry at James and John. Remember, after cross teaching number 2, the disciples were arguing about who's the greatest, and Jesus had to tell them that the greatest is the servant of all. And yet here, cross teaching number 3, it's like James and John didn't get it. They're asking for good seats in the kingdom. The others hear about it, that wow, they're trying to get ahead of us. And so Jesus has to try to straighten them out again. And so picking it up at 10:42, "And Jesus called them to Him and said to them, 'You know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and that their great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many.'" And so Jesus tries again to get them to understand that His kingdom is completely different from the kingdoms of this world. That in the kingdoms of this world, those with power, they kind of lord that power over those that they are over. And they're always seeking to gain more power, to make more people have to serve them, to have greater authority over more and more. And so it doesn't matter whether we're in the political world, whether we're in the corporate world, that's just how this world operates. That you use your authority to lord it over people in order to gain more authority. And Jesus is saying, no, my kingdom is not like that. That if you want to be great in my kingdom, you have to be the servant of all. You have to lower yourself. You have to serve, and rather than trying to gain more power. And then He talks about Himself. And this is what I want us to really kind of focus on. Jesus says that the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And so lifting Himself up there as a model, that if I'm not here to lord my power, my authority over people, but to serve, how much more should you be looking to serve rather than to gain power, rather than to get seats? And so the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And now here's the key thing, and to give His life as a ransom for many. Right there, Jesus takes it to a whole new level, that He came to give His life as a ransom for many. This goes beyond martyrdom. This goes beyond simply being a servant. He came to be the suffering servant. He came to give His life as an atonement for sin, a ransom, that we could be set free from the power of sin, from the power of darkness, that we could live victoriously, faithful and true to God, rather than constantly falling to sin and temptation, and that our sins would be atoned for, that we would be ransomed. And so Jesus is going to Jerusalem to usher in God's kingdom, but it's not the way that the Romans would usher in a kingdom, because it's a completely different kingdom. He's going to Jerusalem not just simply to be a martyr, not simply to serve, but to be the servant who gives his life as the ransom for many, an atoning sacrifice that sets us free from sin, sets us free from self-centeredness, from selfishness, from the abuse of whatever power we have to make others serve us. And so my prayer for us, my prayer for you and me, is that we would recognize what Jesus has done, and that we would recognize kind of the upside down, if you will, value of his kingdom, to serve rather than to be served, and to give rather than simply to take. And so may God give us grace to follow well, to where we're not simply looking for good seats or power positions or getting as far ahead as we can, but to where we're actually looking to serve because our King gave his life for us, that we could be set free from such self-centeredness. God bless. Have a great day, and may God grace you and me to follow Jesus well, to serve well. God bless.